Localization is one of the areas of game development that often include external parties. Freelance translators, studios, maybe even the community. This is why the localization feature set in Articy Draft X comes with a fully customizable localization export and import. The localization export can be accessed via the main menu and then export, or with the shortcut Ctrl-Shift-E. It is located in the localization section of the export dialog. Please note that the localization export-import functionality comes from a plugin. If you cannot find the localization entry in the export dialog, please check the plugin manager if the localization and voice-over import-export plugins need to be enabled. If you are working on a multi-user project, please talk to your server administrator, as they might have disabled the plugin for all users. First, select the objects you want to include in your export. You can include the entire project or just export certain parts. On the right side, from the top to the bottom, you can select reference and target language for the export. Decide if your export should include text with the status final, and set a password for protected cells. Setting a password locks all columns that are supposed to be read-only, to protect the document from unintentional changes. Last but not least, you can select if the exported Excel should be automatically opened after the export or not. At the bottom, select file name and target folder, then confirm with OK to start the export. You can save your selected export options as a preset and load them again for later exports. Please note that the object selection will not be saved though. The localization export creates an Excel sheet with the exported data, plus a log file with an overview of the number of processed and exported objects and if the export was successful. Let's take a look at the Excel file now. First column displays the property type of the entry. Next comes the speaker, if applicable. Then we have the text for the reference language, followed by the current text contents of the selected target language. Depending on at which stage you do the export, this column might be filled more or less, or it might be completely empty. Target language new is one of the columns where changes are to be made. If there is an entry in the current column, it will also be displayed in the new column. You can make changes to existing text or localized entries based on the reference language if there is no content for the target language yet. The remarks column can hold notes that might be relevant for localization. For example, providing some extra context for an ambiguous sentence. If part of your process, the text state can be changed here as well. The Excel sheet is completed by 3 more read-only columns. The object type of the entry, its full path in the project, and the Loca ID. When all work on the Excel file has been completed, it can be imported back into Articy Draft X. For this, we use the import wizard, which can be opened by means of the main menu and import, or via the shortcut Ctrl-Shift-I. Select the file you want to import. The import wizard will parse the file, check against existing import options, and present you with the import settings if it is a valid file. If the file you are trying to import could match multiple imports, a selection menu will be shown. If it is an invalid or unrecognized file type, you will receive an error message. The import settings display the import language at the top, as a verification that the correct language was detected. Below that, you have the option to either use the text states from the Excel sheet or to enforce a specific state for all imported data. With the next option, you can decide how to handle conflicts during the import. Available options are to abort the import process once a conflict is discovered, skip all conflicts and only import data without any conflict, or to resolve each conflict manually. We will see how this manual resolution looks like in a minute. The last setting allows to create an Excel file for all skipped entries. If you automatically skip all conflicts or resolve manually, I highly recommend leaving this option checked to keep an overview over which data was imported and which was not. Multi-user projects have an additional option, how to handle claiming conflicts. If a partition claiming conflict should occur, you can abort the import without making any changes to the project, or import anything that is possible and skip data affected by the claiming conflict. Continue with Next. The import is processed. If it runs through without any conflicts, or if you skip all conflicts, the result window will open. If there are any conflicts and manual conflict resolution is selected, we will see this window popping up. You can resize the window to fit longer strings. Each conflict is shown separately, with how the reference entry appears in the Excel and how it appears in the project. Each conflict is of a certain type and is shown below the actual string. In this case, it is a conflict with the reference text. This can occur when text in the project gets changed after an export and before the data has been re-imported. On the right side is the actual string that is supposed to be imported. Now you can decide if you want to skip importing the new text or to import it and set the state to one of the three options: outdated, in progress, or final. To the right of the resolution option, you can see which conflict you are currently handling and how many conflicts there are in total. The navigation can be used to jump to the first, previous, next, or last conflict in the list. You can also use the keyboard shortcuts F1 to F4 to select a resolution option and jump to the next conflict in the list. This way you can quickly process a number of conflicts without any mouse input. If you went through all conflicts, click Finish to process your selected resolutions and complete the import. Cancel will automatically set the resolution for all conflicts to skip and then completes the import. The result window summarizes all details of the import: the source file, name and target folder for the skip file if applicable, and the statistics for the import process itself. All the info shown will also be saved to a log file. The changes we did in the Excel are now incorporated into the Articy data and can be observed in the Localization View. If you, for example, skipped some entries because you were not sure how to handle them, and a skip file was created, you can take your time to think about it or discuss in a team. Then import the skip file, select Manual Conflict Resolution and decide now. This is the first iteration of the localization export and import. As we plan to expand on it in the future, we welcome and count on your hands-on feedback. You can reach us on the Articy Community Discord channel or drop us a line at info@articy.com. If you are missing any specific functionality, you can customize the localization export import with the help of the free macro dev kit. You can download the MDK and the source code of the plugin from our website and help center. The links are, as always, in the video description.